No, 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 no. That's my response to that proposal to extend our state of emergency by another 3 months. The Trinidad and Tobago government, the PNM government in power right now, is seeking to extend the state of emergency by an additional 3 months because the state of emergency was carried to end, is it August? So it would be September, October, November, 3 more months, and then we'd be out of it by November. One of the better things is if they're seeking to extend it from November, they would need opposition support. And listen, there are times when I am extremely grateful for the fact that I can depend on our opposition in Trinidad and Tobago to oppose. That's something they seem to be exquisitely good at. They are quite good at this opposing business. So if it's one thing I feel, well, you can't be sure about anything, especially in 2021, in the 2020s. Let's leave it in the 2020s. Don't be too sure about things 3 months down the road. But all things being equal, I can be sure 3 months down the road, we are not going to get a next extension. So maybe it might last 6 months, but it's certainly not going to last 9 months. But even the further extension for the next 3 months, I'm saying no already. But I haven't heard the reasoning quite clearly put. Why are we going to do this extension? The state of emergency is for us to have control over this pandemic that seems to be going out of control in certain parts of the world. Already it seems, the suggestion is, Trinidad is getting better control over this pandemic because they reopened the retail stores Monday going there. Why would they have reopened the retail stores if we aren't getting better at it? And then if you reopen the retail stores, you reopen the border, shouldn't it be that you reopen our rights? The state of emergency has our rights in lockdown. That's what the state of emergency is for, to make sure that the government can do what it has to do and without regard to people's rights to get things done. Why do they need this state of emergency now for another 3 months? What is the purpose of the state of emergency for those 3 months? And as I said no already. So maybe I said no a little early. But especially when we find out what is the proposed idea, why do we need another 3 months of state of emergency? When they tell us that, then I could say no again with more confidence. Because it seems to me, I don't know what the reason will be yet, but it seems to me that the Prime Minister, Dr. Rowley, is currently on a path that is suggesting the reopening is dependent on the vaccination levels. I have an acquaintance I met recently, and he was telling me about a commercial for the jab that he hears. I believe it's Republic Bank or something like that. And the commercial, I heard it recently too. The commercial has the same melody of if you're happy and you know it. And if you want to get your life back, get the jab. Now listen, I could understand why people would hate that. It sounds like someone of authority over you because it's a childish melody. So it sounds nearly like they're belittling you. You're a child. And if you want to get your life back, take the jab. If someone is telling you that, it's the suggestion that they have the power and they are holding your life like they're holding it in this hand here, and then they have the jab ready to inject you here. And if you want to get this back, you have to take this. And I hate that. I don't think that's what the government or any authority should be doing. You shouldn't have the authority to do that. The world has, well, we're supposed to have moved past that point. The point where we see people with that kind of stratification where those in power, those up there, can literally have more rights and more worth and more value to their life than those at a lower level. And I hate that. I'm glad that the world has moved away from the economic and governmental systems that had that as the status quo. I hate it. And I think most of the world hates it too. That's why you don't see many more monarchies still alive. You don't see many empires still alive. People don't like that kind of treatment. And if the SOE, the state of emergency extension, is coming with that kind of flavor, with the vaccinate to operate flavor that seems to be Rowley's Dr. Rowley's flavor of choice, I like to be respectful, Dr. Rowley's flavor of choice, vaccinate to operate. If the furtherance to the state of emergency is coming with anything leaning down that direction, that is leading to authoritarianism. And you know how our opposition in Trinidad loves to leverage claims of dictatorship at rulers of the People's National Movement. And I'm sure they would do the same for this. And in this case, there may actually be just reason to do so. So if you haven't clicked that like button yet, please do click that like button and drop a comment. I believe it's the strongest effect on the algorithm. If you'd like to see the videos grow in the audience that are seeing them, well, that's how you do it. And if you aren't subscribed yet, if you're listening to this and aren't subscribed yet, please do click that subscribe button. Let's raise those subscriber numbers as fast as we can. So, government seeks to extend state of emergency by 3 months. This is an article out of the Newsday. The Prime Minister will next Wednesday ask the House of Representatives to extend the state of emergency SOE for 3 more months until late November, said the House order paper. As a measure to help combat the COVID-19 pandemic, at a media briefing, Dr. Rowley had declared the first period of the SOE on May 15th to run until May 30th. On May 24th, Parliament met to extend the SOE for 3 more months, up to August 29th. And August 29th is 9 days away from today, if you're listening to this on Friday the 20th. The extension needs just a simple majority. Newsday was told on Thursday by both Leader of Government Business Camille Robinson-Regis and Opposition Whip David Lee. Indeed, the motion says the Constitution section 10 says the proclamation of an SOE may be extended from time to time by a simple majority vote of the House. Repeated extensions may run up to 6 months in some, said the motion. Lee said that after 6 months, any further extension would need opposition support. In an initial personal reaction, Lee said he saw an inconsistency in reopening TT's borders while continuing a SOE and curfew. He reasoned that foreign tourists and visiting businessmen would be unlikely to be drawn to TT if they had to be shut in their hotel rooms from 9 p.m. nightly. Personally, I don't see the rationale for an extended SOE because public health regulations can curb movement. Last year, in the height of the pandemic, there was no SOE. Keeping the curfew, even if you lift the hours to 11 p.m., still affects businesses and the economy of TT. And I agree wholeheartedly. How could we have managed the pandemic last year with less information, less vaccines, and no SOE? But yet this year we seem unable to manage the pandemic without an SOE. And I seem to remember that this People's National Movement, the PNM government, when they were in opposition way back, that was in the 2010s, 2010 to 2015, during the People's Partnership reign in power, when the People's Partnership did their SOE, there was some talk from the People's National Movement, the PNM, that our government shouldn't have to have a state of emergency to be able to run and manage the country. Now, I understand in the case of a pandemic that this is an actual emergency, a global emergency. But by now, more than a year into it, I don't think that the government needs to take away people's rights to be able to manage this. If you need to take away people's rights to be able to manage this, then you may not be good at managing in the first place. And then maybe this managerial portfolio that is leading the country's government may not be the job for you. There's a thought. TT Chamber of Commerce CEO Gabriel Faria told Newsday he was not yet ready to comment as he was waiting to get specifics of what the government was proposing, such as whether they intended to change the curfew. He said chamber members will discuss it on Friday. The chamber has seen the news and we look forward to understanding what the actual plans are by the government. We haven't seen anything specific. Meanwhile, Faria urged all to get vaccinated against COVID-19 to help TT get over these tough times. I was saying the same thing. I'm not yet totally sure what the specifics of the extension would entail. So it's only so much you could agree when you don't even know the specifics of what it's going to entail. But I am brave enough to say from the outset, I already disagree. I don't even, it sounds bad to say, but I don't even care what the details entail. I don't think we need to inhibit people's rights to get this done. And I'm not sure it would help the country in the long run. NATOC head Michael Anisette told Newsday, I'd be interested to hear the rationale behind the extension before any before any informed comment can be made. This was especially so, he said, because an SOE takes away fundamental human rights. And he said, mulled aloud, why would an SOE be extended just after the government's reopening of retail outlets, the latter which would have suggested that things were going pretty okay? That's my same wonder too. If we're reopening retail, we're reopening the borders, why are we still extending the state of emergency? I would have thought if the state of emergency was so necessary and we were in a position where we needed such a policy to be in place to control this pandemic, then we may not have reopened the retail nor the borders. Why would we do those things yet still need the state of emergency? That is kind of confusing to me. I'm not sure exactly the purpose for that. And as I was saying before, we are in a position different than we were last year, different than we were at the start of this state of emergency. In early May, we were struggling to get vaccines. We didn't have enough vaccines to vaccinate our entire population. Now in Trinidad, the thing holding back the population from being vaccinated for the most part is how fast the injections can literally be stuck inside of people's arms. Johnson & Johnson COVID-19 vaccines arriving tonight. That was last night, but I believe they didn't arrive last night. There was a hold up, so they would be arrived. I believe they were supposed to arrive sometime this morning. The Ministry of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs said a shipment of 108,000 doses of Johnson & Johnson COVID vaccines should arrive. Well, that's this morning. In a statement, the ministry said the World Health Organization approved vaccines purchased via the African Medical Supplies Platform, AMSP, should arrive at the Piaco International Airport at 7 p.m. tonight. Now, added to that is a Guardian article saying TNT likely to have acquired more vaccine doses than needed. Now, this is the position I was expecting us to be in afterward. Because when you look around the world, the richer nations are nearly all in a position like this. And they have more vaccines than they need because they have the resources to acquire them. So it kind of makes sense in the Caribbean that Trinidad would be one of the nations to have more vaccines than we need. Or at least we're set up in such a way that very likely we will acquire eventually more vaccines than we need. Now, there are things we could do with those extra vaccines. With over 1 million doses of various COVID-19 vaccines still to make their way here, TNT is on path to have more doses at its disposal than people to inoculate. TNT is expected to receive 108,000 doses of Johnson & Johnson vaccine from the AMSP 7 this morning after the freight airline was delayed from its initial delivery time yesterday, including doses previously procured and donated to TNT. Once the J&J jabs are received, the country will be able to see an estimated 952,070 people vaccinated, well into the realm of inoculations believed to be required to secure herd immunity. Health officials are aiming to have fully vaccinated between 60 to 70% of the adult population to accomplish this. Now, I have a problem with this right here, and if the state of emergency has anything to do with acquiring herd immunity, well, throw it out the window one time, because was it a YouTube video I did, or was it in a contemplation, where I pointed out in Iceland, they have somewhere around 90% vaccination levels in Iceland. That's over that 60-70% herd immunity threshold that many people are talking about. And still in Iceland, when the Delta strain touched down, it still spread. So the prospect of herd immunity is not there, it seems, at least with the Delta strain. And I saw sometime this week, it's being said that the Delta strain right now is the dominant strain. So the policies that we are setting in place are supposed to be set in place to control the dominant strain, which is the Delta strain. So it can't be that we are aiming at herd immunity, which was the aim for the base strain, the original COVID-19 strain. That was the aim for that, but it can't still be the aim. We must be moving along as we find new information. That's the purpose of having living people leading the country. They would be able to see this new information and do changes accordingly. So I hope it's not that herd immunity thing that we are aiming for. That's not to discourage anyone from vaccination in the first place, because To me, as I keep saying, the primary selling point of the vaccination is personal protection. It's not societal protection. It's not the herd immunity. It's for yourself. That's what I see. That's the way I see it. It's personal protection. So go consult with a doctor. See what your doctor says. If you don't trust your doctor, find a doctor that you can trust. Ask them. If you're afraid, ask them. Let them allay your fears and listen to the doctor, because if you have any other medical problem, some people do, but generally you don't listen to yourself or go on YouTube and listen to what YouTubers say. So don't even listen to what I say necessarily on your medical decisions. Go find a doctor you trust, ask them, and let them help you with the decision. That's the way I see it. With a population of around 1.4 million, this means 840,000 to 980,000 people would need to be vaccinated to get to this goal. There are just over 1 million people who will be able to qualify for a jab, but with 602,550 doses of Pfizer-BioNTech vaccines still to be received from the United States and the remaining 692,000 doses to be shipped from AMSP, the country will be left with excess doses. When all the shipments are received, TNT will have enough doses to fully vaccinate 1,945,345 people. The number of excess doses will only increase if there isn't 100% uptake by the viable population. And to be honest, I don't predict 100% viable uptake. Everyone who can be vaccinated is not going to be vaccinated, so there are going to be quite a few extra vaccine doses. Those extra vaccine doses may come in handy because we're already seeing the booster shots. If the doses are brought here at a time where they would be able to last long enough to give someone the booster shot, I wouldn't be surprised if some of those extra doses go towards booster shots, and that's going to be a next bit of confusion. I am nearly sure of it, but let's await to see when that point reaches, how it's going to make the news. And I'm pretty sure it will make the news. Whatever happens, I'm pretty sure it will be newsworthy. Because the butting heads, the disagreements on vaccination policies, on jab policies, on how you're going to work with unvaccinated people on the schooling side of it, they're creating no end to disagreement and confusion. Right now, though, the Ministry of Education, the minister said that the question I asked about unvaccinated versus vaccinated students would not be much of a worry, because both the vaccinated and the unvaccinated students would be both welcomed in the schools when they do reopen. So at least the public schools as of now are working with purely voluntary basis on the vaccines, and I like that. Especially when we're talking about schooling and that kind of age group and parents involved. I don't think you really want it to be a mandatory thing. That change in the middle of the schooling year, and then if someone is apprehensive about getting that shot and you change it that it is mandatory, then someone would be stopped from getting their schooling because they don't take the jab. And that sounds a little on the far side to me, a little too far out there. However, in the UE, the University of the West Indies, they're already saying they're more bold with it. Only vaccinated students would be allowed to live on campus. That's not to go to school, that's to live on campus. The 5 halls that the university has on their campus, if you would like to live on those halls, you would need to be vaccinated. Now, I'm sure some may have some worry about that, but I'm not sure that you could really have a squabble about that. That's living arrangements, and the people who own the living quarters should be able to have some say about the standard that is set within the living quarters, at least. That makes some sense to me. I'm not sure how everyone is going to take it in the long run, because some of those living quarters are used for foreign students, and if perchance one of the, that's not true. Because in the first place, if you're a foreign student and you want to come to Trinidad, I believe you have to be vaccinated. We aren't letting in unvaccinated foreigners. If you're a local, you may be unvaccinated and let in. So for the foreigners, that may not even be an issue. So who knows? You may be still in the right. But that's UE. They may get away with that. But right now, the Republic Bank Limited, along with some of the other businesses, are seeing their struggles with the vaccination policy. RBL Big Woo, BIGW, that's the Bankers Insurance and General Workers Union, square off over vaccine for staff. Because Republic Bank Limited is saying that their staff they need to be vaccinated to come back to work. The usual with the vaccination policy, and if you aren't vaccinated, it's going to cost you somewhere around $2,400 a month to ensure that you get the PCR tests to prove that you are unvaccinated. Now, BIGWU, I am grateful to them because they seem to have done some research, and they were saying that if you're talking about PCR tests, that isn't actually accurate. What you need to do is organize policies within the bank to keep people at a distance, because the virus can still spread whether you're vaccinated or not. And I hope some of these unions hire some people or speak to some people that have knowledge in these subjects, so that when they go to speak to the employers, they would be knowledgeable on questioning the decisions made by the employers too. And I am sure the idea of how unions work would have an effect on this. I saw already in Tobago, one business owner had to change his policy because the Tobagonians, when it comes to being hesitant, they're not even hesitant. Those that don't want it, don't want it. They are not hesitating. If you ask them, there's no no. They're saying no quite plainly. So he attempted to enact a vaccination policy, and the workers said no. And they left. And without workers, you can't run your business, so he had to bring them back and change the policy. The workers and the employees do have a lot of power, especially in this situation. We may see a resurgence of the usefulness of unions. If you know me, you know that I kind of find some of these unions have outlived some of their purposes. But maybe in this case, we may see that resurgence of that usefulness in the unions. What do you think? Drop that comment, tell me what you think. That's all I have for now. I'll see you again. I'm not sure. Maybe tomorrow. I might make a video tomorrow for the next video. I hope you were entertained and informed. See you then. Feel the music rising with the time.